Okay,
We,
yes.
yes, I remember we discussed strategic leadership, and then we talked about national security, and then at the same
Yes.
time, we talk about the human security aspect of national security. And today, we are going to brush on some aspect of security that are important that we note, especially as it borders on security management. Hello, class.
Hello, sir. Well, with you, sir.
I remember we discussed concept of security, concept of national security, and then the indicators of national security, where we talked about uh, human security, and particularly we talk about energy security, economic, political security. Uh, we talked about security. Did we remember all that?
Yes, sir.
So we will not be going back to all that, but be rest assured those areas will be discussed in uh, the exams. Now, I want us to discuss national security and then organized crime. Of course, when we talk about organized crime, we are talking about crime that happens that are well coordinated with professionals from different walks of life. There are many organized crime, and these organized crimes are really threatening the sovereignty of Nigeria as a nation. And this organized crime has great impact on the national security of our nation, and then it requires strategic intelligence and strategic solutions. Now, what are even these organized crime? We have one, we have arms trafficking, we have drug trafficking, we have natural resource trafficking, we have human trafficking, we have cyber crime, and recent time we have organ trafficking, and whole lot of corruption is also part of organized crime. We have trans-border crime. Now, why I'm listing all this, these are all factors. I want you to understand that security threats, there's a scholar, Emma Duncan, that said, security threats changes as society emerge and develop. As the society advance and modernize, the security challenges or security threats usually change. And these changes, there is a shift in the olden days security threat. In those days, the major security threat people are afraid of is armed robbery and some other petty theft. But in recent time, security threat has become more organized. We have terrorists or insurgent groups who have leadership structure just the way we have government and with its leadership structure. We have drug trafficking syndicates that have organized structure, how they manufacture, how they distribute goods from the manufacturer and then to the end users across the continent. As the world globalized, that is how crime too has globalized. As boundaries between nations are broken, that is how boundaries of crime are broken. Now you can see people who perpetrate cyber crime can be in Nigeria and then dupe somebody in US, dupe somebody in China, dupe somebody in India and all those places and still succeed. You can see now crime are being committed in area where somebody don't even domicile, and then there is a case of prosecution. Where does the prosecution lies? Because every country have their criminal justice systems, and they have their laws and the prescriptions for punishments that each nation's criminal justice system above. So these and others are the current security threats. And then now I talked about human trafficking. It is no more news that
Yeah.
many Nigerians are trapped in Libya. And then it may surprise you that uh, the European nations and America, they are quiet about it. It may surprise you that they pay those militants in Libya to arrest and then sell other Africans into slavery in order to discourage people that want to follow Libya to Europe, because Libya is a border country to Europe. And because of the closeness between Libya and the European nations, particularly Italy, people have taken advantage of that. And then they have to set up a cell of people and then arm them and then European countries are paying them in the name that they want to stop people who are crossing into Europe. But on the other hand, human slavery, human beings are being sold from one group to another. There is a slave labor, forced labor there. People work for their freedom. That is at the international aspect. Now, how does this affect us in Nigeria? It affects us in Nigeria because some of these participants in the militancy in Libya, they find their way back to Nigeria and fraternize with the current Boko Haram and ISWAP terrorists. And as a result, they threaten our national security. Also, if you look at drug, Buba Marwa, the head of NDLEA, said the major challenge in Nigeria is drug abuse, and that a way forward towards solving Nigeria's security issue is the tackling of drug abuse. That if drug abuse or drug trafficking is curtailed, most of the security threats will be halfway solved, because it is the drug that people take that convince or confuse them to carry arm against the state. So you can see drug trafficking is at the center stage of Nigeria's security threat. Also, another factor is corruption. Corruption in Nigeria is one basic factor that has made our military not to appear weakened before the insurgent and then non-state actors. Corruption, even within the army, there's corruption. Within the political class, there's corruption. So the corruption is just in everything. And that in itself is a threat to our own national security. It has become threat to our own security well-being. And then I talked about organ trafficking. Organ trafficking. There is a surge now in the request for kidney and other vital parts in human beings, because given the lifestyle that people live, we've witnessed series of cases of organ failure. And because these people who have this organ failure, they are wealthy people, they have paid some organized group of people who can harvest, kidnap and harvest these organs and sold to them. And in the case of this organ harvest, that will tell you that the kidnapper that kidnap people and harvest the organ are not acting alone, because they cannot operate an individual and remove the organ to their life. They need to work with doctors, with other medical and health practitioners. In hospitals, normal hospitals that they try to do transplant, it takes long process, complicated procedures, and then huge financial requirements to get that implemented. But how comes the kidnappers in the bush can successfully harvest individual organ and the organ will survive until it reaches the benefactor of the organ? So these and others are pointing to organized crime as a threat to national security. And when you look at the threat of drug, also if you look at the threat, drug trafficking, if you look at the threat of cross-border smuggling, you will see that it is not just the economy that suffers. The political system is suffering, the educational system is suffering, the cultural values are being eroded. So everything is being in comatose. And then they are all in one way or another linked to security challenges. They are linked to group who threaten the peace, order, and stability in Nigeria. In fact, organized crime also have a direct impact on social and economic development of Nigeria. The question now that, hello?
Hello, sir. We are with you, sir.
Okay, I thought someone was trying to ask question. Also, when you look at our sovereignty, our relationship with other nations in the international arena is also a factor. In the international community, in the world market, nations come together to relate for mutual benefit. But one thing that is certain is that almost all nations that interact, they have no permanent friend, no permanent enemy, but they have permanent interest. And sometimes, in order to drive their interest, they can sponsor a security threat in your country just to discredit certain aspects of your country for them to gain. You can see in the case of our Nigeria, when the former administration of President Muhammadu Buhari said he is embarked on empowering farmers, he wants to close the border so that we don't import rice and other food. What happened? We saw a massive killing of farmers. We saw a massive resurgence of insurgent group, and this insurgent group often target farmers, and they kill farmer, harvest their crop, and sometimes they frustrate the farmer by not just harvesting their crop, raping their family in their very before, trying to tell them that as long as you come to this farm, you lose your life, you lose your farm produce, you lose your family. And that in itself became a threat that food became a very scarce commodity in Nigeria. You can see, if not the recent relaxation of the border policy that allowed the importation of rice, rice is gradually becoming a thing that a poor normal Nigeria, average Nigeria cannot afford anymore. And why is that? And in spite the huge allocation to, why is it that the outcome of food production is not equal to food need and food utilization in Nigeria? This is to tell you that aside from the internal dynamics, there are external hands that play a role in destabilizing political policies for the benefit of other nations, and they threaten our national security and national sovereignty, because food occupies a pivotal position in sustenance of life. No matter how the security an individual may have, no matter the guns, no matter the bullion vans, no matter the bulletproof you may have, if you are hungry, you are vulnerable to life-threatening situation. Hunger is one thing that gun cannot solve. It's one thing that multitude of security cannot solve. It's one thing that armed vehicle or armored tank cannot solve. But rather, it has to be solved by food, and then individual life is sustained when they have choices, they have access to more choices of food. They can make choice. They can eat whatever they want to eat as and when they want, and then save it for future need. So these are the situations in the country. Now, when we talk about strategic thinking, like I told you before in the introduction to the class, strategic thinking is that thinking that is that thought that gives birth to solution to national threat or national challenge. And we have, like I told you in the past, that we have people who are considered strategic leaders, strategic thinkers. These are people that have philosophy about leadership. These are people that applies wisdom in tackling issues. You know, in Nigeria currently, many issues are being handled with what they call the window dressing. The main issue are not being resolved. And as long as we continue pursuing peace without addressing injustice, we are rather but pretending and shielding ourselves from the reality. And if you look at what is happening across the country, if you look at our political decisions, if you look at our economic decisions, down to educational institution and the culture, you will see that people crave for peace, people preach peace, but nobody preach justice. And peace is one thing that if you achieve peace without justice, that is a negative peace, because it is just going to be a temporary peace, within no time, that peace will be disrupted because the very essence that caused the conflict that disrupt the peace, order, and stability of the people is still very available. And until justice prevail. And if you look at our criminal justice system, from the police down to the correctional center and then down to the judges, from the lawmaker, the legislators down to the executive, there is no justice in handling security issue. National issues are being handled with trivial intentions, like what politicians will say, it is rather window dressings that are being done. So what is happening to the protection of national interest? What is even Nigeria national interest? Do we even have national interest? If we do, what are our national interests? Do we have national security policies? If we do, what are the content of our national security policies? Do we have national security strategy? Yes, some will tell you we have strategy, some will tell you we don't have strategy, some will tell you we have policy, we don't have strategy, some will say we have policy, we don't have strategy. In all this, for every strategy, there must be a policy. The policy is the documented arrangement of how things should be done. The strategy is how that thing should be implemented and been done to achieve results. Now, if you look at most of our national security strategy document or policies document, they are adoption. We plagiarize those of the United States of America. If you could remember, Nigerian government was once saying that it doesn't negotiate with terrorists just the way United States of America says. But forgetting the fact that the same United States of America operates under double standard. To the press and members of the public, they don't negotiate with terrorists, but behind ground, they have people who go in there and negotiate with terrorists. And if you can see the case of Afghanistan, the Taliban, they fought, they couldn't defeat them. They came into agreement that they will abandon and leave for them all the equipment, including helicopter they brought to Afghanistan for the war to end. And that was what happened. People thought American soldiers just left those gadgets due to rush. It wasn't. It is agreement. There are couch of arms that were left for them. Imagine you're fighting people at the end, you left your arm, your gun, your everything, your machines for them. And then you may be wondering, what kind of withdrawal is that? Is it a defeat withdrawal? Is it a surrender? Is it a mission complete? These are things that nations are supposed to open eyes to, because these Western nations operate based on double standard. And then as Africa that we are always buying into the philosophy of we don't negotiate with terrorists, and things are continuously going bad across the country because there are some terrorists that, based on our current capacity, not that we cannot get them, but because of the hand that is sponsoring them, you have to negotiate, because for every terrorist group or insurgent group, they have a request. So strategically, I think during the Obasanjo, when he was handling the Niger Delta people, he introduced a policy called the carrot and stick. For you pass a warning to people, the people that hit the warning and embrace amnesty, they should come. And those who did not, who think they have the capacity to fight the government, then the government might should be used on them. And you can see down to the current administration, the carrot and stick still in place. But what is the level of implementation? The question we need to ask, our challenge is not just the insurgency of the terrorist group. What is happening to the community security? What is happening to our resources? What is happening to our economy? And of course, a strategic thinker, it takes a strategic thinker to realize that whatever affects the economy affects every segment of the society, because economy, like Hamas will have us say, is the basement, is the stepping stone, is the foundation, and is the core of any nation. Every other social institutions and everything that happens in the nations are all dependent on the economic strength of the nation. And then if only we could answer and solve the economic problem, the economic questions that are begging for answer, like what is happening to employment, what is happening to cottage industry, what is happening to energy supply, what is happening to exportation, what is happening to our border, and what is happening to the importation of goods. These questions and many other, if they are answered, we are way far in solving our problem. But as long as the economy is not seen as a solution, people think the solution to our problem is political. As such, everything is being treated with the hand glove of politics. And that in itself have continued to derail our drive towards security, attaining safety across our nation. And then, how is our sovereignty, which is very important, the very essence that make Nigeria a unique nation is her sovereignty. Sovereignty has to do with our territory, that we are in charge of it. It is within our control. Whatever happens in our territory, it is what that is based on the yearnings and aspiration of the citizen. But in reality, is it really what it is? In reality, are there no other foreign nation deciding our policies? In reality, what is our leaders doing? So these and others are factors that have continued to affect our drive towards attaining adequate national security. As it is, politically, we're not safe because most of the gadgets we use for our elections are imported. They can be easily manipulated. And if you could remember, in the past election, government say it wants to do pure electronic voting, but it later changed and didn't do pure electronic voting because some group of players, non-state actors, have already gathered mercenaries who are cyber experts that will swindle the result, and that was averted. And then if you look at it again, our economy, we are not safe. Most of our products, we are we import the machines. The machines are imported. We don't have uh, have machines that produce machines. Most of our goods, we prefer, we have taste for foreign goods as opposed to our indigenous or local content industry. So that is that about that one. If you look at our energy, we are not safe. Look at nations like Iran and other nations are building nuclear energy to supply enough power for their economy. And what is ours, despite funds being allocated, what have we attained in terms of power supply? Almost half of Nigerian population suffer, they live in darkness. The children don't have light to study at night. Parents don't have light to produce in the noon. So light, nobody decide the fate of when they won't have light. That one is also a challenge. What happens to our environment? Look at some areas, they experience excess rainfall, and in other areas they experience drought. And then even in the drought, insecurity still follow. So what is happening to our environment? Even the mining they are doing, mining does are not being regulated. Most of the people into mining, they go into mining because they heard there is value for money in mining, and they do not undergo training for the regulation for disposing mining waste, and then the impact of mining on adjoining communities, because as they mine, some of the chemicals are being released into the water body, and then in no distant time we will start see people in the rural area coming down with cancer and all that, if it has not started, because in the city center people are already getting down with cancer. What is happening to radioactive from our phones and all that? All these are things that beg for answer, because when we talk about security, we shouldn't be just too focused on what the army and police does using the gun. There are subtle security threats. Drug abuse is also a time bomb and a security threat for the youth. The youth are getting attached to drug, they are getting addicted. And at what point did you get to this stage? What is the enforcement level against drug abuse? Why hasn't it been successful? So these are pertinent questions that require strategic thinking and solutions in order to get to where we want to go. I'll pause here for questions, please. Any question?
No question from my end, sir.
Hello, are we together?
Yes, sir.
If no question,
Eh,
then I can continue.
doctor, please, sir. Sorry, I have a question, sir.
Hello, are you guys with me?
Yes, yes, sir. Doctor, I have a question, sir. Hello, sir.
Hello, is anybody there?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Your voice is very, very low.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Hello?
Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
The voice is very faint. I'm coming. Let me see if there's anything I can do to add volume to this.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me now, sir?
I cannot hear you.
Hello, sir.
Abolorin, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you, sir. Can you hear me, sir? I can hear you, sir.
I don't know why mine wasn't talking, but
I can hear you. I can hear you, sir. I can hear you
you,
clearly,
I
sir.
cannot. I can hear you, but very mute.
I can hear you
Okay,
loud and
okay.
clear here too.
Now you can speak.
Okay, sir. Sir, sir, from your experience, sir,
Hello?
what do you think? Hello, sir. Are you with me, sir? Oh.
I don't know why it's not entering speaker. I'm coming. Let me check my setting.
Hello, sir. We can't hear you, sir.
My ear and hear you.
Okay, okay. I can hear you now, sir.
Okay. Okay, that then you couldn't hear me earlier.
No, yes, yes, yes.
At what point did you hear me last?
When you said you want to check your settings,
Okay.
yes, sir.
The thing is not entering speaker from my side, but I can let me listen to you now and respond to you. The phone is on my ears.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. I said from your experience, sir, how do you
Yes.
think justice can prevail in this our system, in this our government? Because corruption has eaten deep into our blood. The corruption is even in the grassroots, not to talk of people that are in political or government positions. So for me, I'm seeing it like it might be very difficult for justice to prevail because a lot of people have corrupt mindset already, and sensitization might not help. So from your experience, I want to start from you, sir. What do you
Okay.
think can be done for justice to prevail?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I want to believe you can hear me as I talk, right?
Yes, sir.
Can
Yes,
you
sir.
hear me?
You can.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We can hear
So,
you, sir.
for the issue of corruption, like I've always said whenever I go to public gatherings, we have not come out to define corruption in Nigeria context. We need to define corruption within the context of Nigeria by telling ourselves what corruption is. We need to define corruption because as it is now, we only discuss corruption based on what the Western nations describe as corruption. So we need to define corruption so that we can know what corruption means in the context of Nigeria. And then we need to also go back to our family system and reform our family value because the value system holds the bulk of it all until we get the family system right because they say charity begins at home. Whatever it is that we do today is subject to the family in which we come from. If you are from a family that tolerates nonsense, you're likely to go to the public and instigate nonsense. If you're from the family that doesn't tolerate nonsense, you are most likely not to go to the public and perpetrate nonsense. So, family. But however, unfortunately, the family is the epicenter of encouraging corruption because every family expects their word to bring to bring value back, irrespective of how that value is gotten. In the past, like I always tell people, in the family, the most senior is respected, irrespective of whether he's rich or not. But in recent time, if the last born is the one that have money, the family automatically respect the rules given by the last born as opposed to the one given by the firstborn. And that is to tell you that the family system has been eroded. We need to go back to our value system and then reorient ourselves. At government level, they need to do justice. Like I said, we are pursuing peace without pursuing justice. It's like a mirage, what people who study literature call mirage. Some things that appear as if it exists and doesn't exist. It's a facade. For instance, if you're traveling for long journey during the afternoon, sometime when you look at your ahead of you, you see as if the road has water, and when you get there, there's no water. So it's facade, it's mirage. Government reason why people are engaged in corrupt practices is because the minimum wage is poor. The average salary of worker is poor. Most worker most worker, if they abide by the salary they are getting every month, they will never own a house for themselves, they will never own a car for themselves. But because those things are basic necessity that people see and they use it to judge you as a status, so people must engage in corrupt practices in order to buy car to ease their life. And then if only government make the public transport system to be accessible, affordable and effective, people will not want to steal government fund to buy car. People will not want to violate rules and conduct to buy car. But as it is, the transport system is bad. If you don't have car, they see you as a poor person, you don't have status. Imagine going to a wedding where you are the chairman of the occasion and then you went on bike. So some wedding venue they won't even allow you enter. So the system is one that is poorly structured. It pays people who work less better and pay people who work better higher lower wages. So there is no justice in the wage system. There is no justice in law implementation because our law now is like a cobweb that catches the weak flies and then the bigger fly tear through it. Look at the case of Ike Ekweremadu. If not that he was arrested in UK and then the UK law applies, do you think in Nigeria, if they say he harvested somebody's organ without permission, do you think they will take him to jail? The case might have died. In fact, journalists will not even carry the case twice before the case will be forgotten, just because they are well to do, they control the machineries of government and they have the fund to pay to silence the voice of critic. So as long as we continue politicizing uh, our affairs, our national security will never be what we ought it to be. We will rather be pursuing security and then we will not be secure, because we have not pursued positive peace. All government does and its agencies are to pursue negative peace. And negative peace is temporary, because the root of the factor that generates the threat has not been addressed. So, but part of all these things we discussed, the organized crime and all that, corruption is the root. And when you look at what is the root of corruption, is injustice, not paying, not giving adequate payment to people that works. Some people works, other people takes the glory. Uh, like I always say, it is a case of animal farm, where the animals with four legs are more equal than the ones with two legs. The two legs are bad, while the four legs are the ones that are normal animal. So as such, the four legs should enjoy the benefit of the state as opposed to those of two legs. Even though the two legs are the one that they are the one that build the houses, they are the one that uh, struggle to maintain law and order, to maintain the society. Without the less privileged, the average Nigerians who work in the civil service, who does the day-to-day running of government, if government is to continue the way it is, uh, the elites themselves cannot service the machineries of government alone. It's like Latif is asking question, right?
I'm not, sir.
Okay, okay. So if we're talking about issues of security, issues of corruption, you know, the system is one that is rotten, is not really, is not really paying for value. What people put, the more you put, the less you get, and the less you put, the more you get. So it discourages hard work, it discourages honesty, because if you are honest, sometimes corruption will fight you out of the system, and then you will die miserably. They will label you as a bad person because you try to block progress. And another thing I usually tell people when we talk about corruption, corruption is subject to where you find yourself. If you are poor and you don't have relation that is in power that you benefit undue benefits, you see corruption as bad. The moment yourself is given position, or you have a relative who is a deputy senate president, or who's a senate president, or is something, you don't longer see them as being corrupt. You try to tune in to benefit from the proceed of corruption. You and I are crying of corruption in Nigeria today because we find ourselves at disadvantaged position. If we are to be at advantage position, we would have been sharing prayer into our account and be using prayer to swindle public opinion, and then we would think what we're doing is politics. So a lot. If you look at the fight against insurgency, has not been successful, not because our army are not trained, not because our army cannot do it well, but because politically they've not been given enough resources. Imagine risking your life for a bullet on daily basis, and then your daily allowance is it 500 or 1,500 depending on your rank, and then even this 1,500 are not being paid. Sometimes this army go on operation, they are left with only garri without sugar to drink and no water. Sometimes they have to drink river, and this river can be poisoned from ahead. So a lot of issues that are unaddressed, unattended to, and that does not stop our leadership from buying couch of SUVs from these foreign nations. They drive in bulletproof, in spite they are not in volatile places. And in some country, if you're a ministry of defense or you're a police chief and you're driving in armored vehicle, it means you don't know your work. You are supposed to make the country secure, that you yourself can exemplify that you can walk on the street free without being attacked, and then that will give other people to walk free. But you can't tell some people that they should drive their normal car about, there is peace, while you drive in armored vehicle. So these are irony that speak against what they do. It's a case of do what I say, don't do what I do, in the case of Nigeria. So as long as corruption persists, corruption is the basics of insecurity in the country. I'll stop here for question or contribution.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for the Um,
Hello, go ahead. I can't. I didn't know you were
yes,
talking.
sir. Yes, sir. I'm just thanking you for answering my question, sir.
Okay.
I have another question for now, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let me continue. When we talk about strategic, we need strategic leaders. I told you people in the introduction to this course that the likes of Mao Zedong, the likes of Abraham Lincoln, the like of this Ghanaian man, what's his name? Uh, Kwame Nkrumah, the like of Nyerere, the like of Kenneth Kaunda, the likes of Amilcar Cabral, the like of Robert Michel. You know, these are people that are strategic. They foresaw. And in our generation, in our recent time, we've seen the like of this Ibrahim Traore. You can see what Traore came to power through a military junta, which is discouraged by the Western world. But people criticize Traore, neglecting the fact that democracy is not an indigenous inborn political system in Africa. And the kind of democracy being practiced in Africa is one that will never bring development, is one that allows the elites to control all resources and not to be questioned. But if you look at the military regime, Ibrahim Traore is succeeding and achieving milestone in developmental progress because it is a military regime. He did not need to write his plan to go and give some group of people, disgruntled people that will argue and argue and argue at the end, delay the process and then not implementing, or at the end changing the content to their own favor. But now what this guy is doing, because of the system of government they operate, whatever the need is, straightforward, it deploy the state resources towards addressing that. But in a democratic setting, that cannot work. You have to present budget, you have to work based on budget. Even when things are going wrong, you have to akin and stick to the budget and all that. Leadership is not like that. There are policy of exigency. As we human live our life on challenges, changes. In a month, if you carry your salary and say for the next 1 month, this is my salary, I want to use it and pay transport and then do this. There are times that a child will be sick or yourself will be sick. You have to use out of your transport money and pay for sickness. But in democratic setting, it's not like that. You have to send for supplementary bill or budget to the Senate for to the House of Rep, the Senate for approval. They will debate over it and then delay the process until that thing become worse. Look at the case of security attacks that the security chiefs, even though they see they're in the town where this thing is happening, they have to call a central authority to seek permission before they engage. And one thing about security is about time and chance. It's about time and chance. So the democratic system is not working in Africa. Africa should have looked for what works for them, because the fact that the Western Europe are democratic in their practice does not mean we must be democratic in our practice. There is these policies that China and Russia are really using. Internally they are socialist nation, but externally they are capitalist nation because they operate and mingle and does business with other capitalist nations. So when they interact with the outside world, they interact as capitalist nation, but within their nation, they are socialist nation. And the same thing happened with Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. He was capitalist nation outside, but internally, he's a socialist nation that provides the basic needs of its people. And then in that, he has achieved milestone in development. Yet the Western people still tag him as what? As a traitor, or what they call him. They call him dictator. And the Cameroonian president that has been there for ages have not been called a dictator, because Paul Biya, as it is playing to the galleries of France and the European nations, paying them royalty to maintain him in power. So there are many African leaders like that. So until we have people who are strategic, And you can see the AES nation, the Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso that form alliance. Now they want to relax their border policies. They are operating as one, and that is what Africa need to do to come out of its current security threat, to come out of its quagmire. Because these nations, they need one another, because some are landlocked, they don't have access to water. It is through water they can export their goods and import their goods. So they need to form alliance in order to promote their economy, in order to have a common security policies, in order to combine tackle their problem. And yet you can see our president is at the forefront in the fight against Ibrahim Traore. So you may want to ask, are the African leaders fighting him because he's not performing, or they are fighting him because he's operating a military regime? I think what we should be concerned about as a continent and as a nation is what works for who. Whatever works for anybody, that person should do that thing. You mustn't follow the general principle if it's not working for you. So don't say because everybody take paracetamol for a headache, yours must always be paracetamol. There are other drugs that are not paracetamol that cures a headache. So if that has been looked upon, we will understand our problem, and then our security issues, they have international coloration, and especially this Burkina Faso case have shown to the world that France and UK and America are at the center stage of the insecurity in Africa. Because if they don't cause security threats, Africans will not buy their weapons, will not buy their machineries, will not seek for their training and all that. So in order to get control of our political leadership and to control our security organizations, you see they give us, they put security threat, arm some group, and then direct them on how to attack. You can see in recent time, Boko Haram attacked Nigerian army using drones that drop bombs, drones that shoot, armed drones. And while our Nigerian army has not been trained to do that. Now the question to ask, why is it that this knowledge that only emerged in the Ukraine-Russia war is now being used by insurgents? Who give them such drone? Who trained them on the use? Why did they use it? How comes in Nigeria? You know, these are questions. These are pointed to the fact that the Western nations are behind these people, and now they are indirectly telling Nigerian government that time has come for you to start buying drones that shoot gun. Time has come for you to start buying drones that shoot bomb. At the same time, the same Western nation will now sell drone jammer to the insurgents. If the Nigerian military or security agencies are using drone to track them, they cannot use jammer to jam the drone. So the case of insecurity in Africa and Nigeria is a case of the economic development of Europe and America. Because as they put insecurity, they sell their military wares, they sell their knowledge, they sell everything. It's like a computer virus. The same people that manufacture virus and put in the internet to attack your system are the same people that produce antivirus and still sell that you buy to protect your system. So it is a Western hegemony, and it's a double standard, and as long as that double standard continue, we will continue to be vulnerable, be it physical, be it on cyberspace, be it in our policies and strategies. We have always been at the receiving end. So any question?
No question,
Any
sir.
question? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I will share the assignment so that you people will do it after your exams. So that I'll use it as test, since to see you guys physically, I know because of work is not really easy.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to share, I'll share it on you on WhatsApp so that you share to others.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
I'll
Thank
do
you,
that
sir.
just now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So you guys should have a very blessed day, okay?
And you too, sir. So when
God
should we
bless you.
start?
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
Yes, sir.
sir.
You promised us the course outline, sir, and some materials. Yeah.
That's true. I'll try to do that today as I send the assignment.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. Sir, are we still having another class?
When is the exam? Next week, Friday, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.